Destroyer Duck from Eclipse Comics is the first appearance of Groo the Wanderer in comic strip form. Hi, I'm Darren, these are my hands, and today I've got the original Groo the Wanderer comic with all the gore and blood that Sergio drew that's been removed from subsequent reprints. I'm looking at you, the Groo Chronicles. So I was thinking that being 2023, it would be fun to take a look at 40 years ago in Groo, and we could do like Pacific Comics Groo stuff from 2023, except there's stuff that happened before 2023. I mean, 1983. So I think I'd still like to do that, but first, we're going to take care of some of the stuff that happened before Pacific Comics Groo, and we're going to start kind of at the beginning today. I know that might be a little bit debatable, but for our purposes today, we're starting at the beginning. Destroyer Duck, the first appearance of Groo in comic strip form. So let's flip to the back and find Groo the Wanderer by Sergio Aragonés. Now, what I really like about this, there's so many things that I like about this, but I like that we've got Sergio here, a little self-caricature, and it looks to me like he's drawn himself in the style of a caveman. We've got the Wanderer carved out of the rock here. We've got Groo's name carved out of stone. I don't know, is it trying to place this comic way, way back in time? I just think it's pretty neat. So here we have the first drawings of Groo, and man, is he different looking than what Groo turned into, right? I remember when I was looking at this a while ago, taking a look at the Chronicles versions, I was like looking at his nose and comparing his nose in this version to what's in the Chronicles version, and it's so different. Let me grab the Chronicles. All right, here we have Sergio Aragonés Groo Chronicles number 2. And here is, side by side, Groo the Wanderer from Destroyer Duck and the new version. And holy cow, as I'm looking at this right now, it's not like that Sergio's just fixed up the nose. Okay, look at the nose here versus the nose here. Like, clearly he's changed the nose. But look at his face here and here. This is like a total redraw. Wow. I've never really noticed that before. Like here, and here, and here. This is a total redraw. Some of this is traced. Huh. Wow. Look at that. Such a redraw. And something that I hadn't noticed before. Originally, Groo the Wanderer didn't just have his plain orange jerkin. Take a look at this V-neck that he's got going on here with this leather stitching, kind of keeping it tied together. Huh. How come I've never noticed that before? Wow. Oh yeah, and Sergio keeps it here. Oh, but he's gotten rid of it here and here. Interesting. A little bit of, what do you call that? Retroactive redesign of the character. That's neat. Yeah, so it's kind of there. Definitely he has like a V-neck there. You can see some neck. No neck in this version of it. Oh, wow. Got to take a look at that. That's pretty cool. So anyway, the main thing that I was thinking about this version of Groo the Wanderer, besides Sergio redrawing it and Tom Luth coloring this, recoloring it. So this was colored by Gordon Kent in the Destroyer Duck version, and retraced, redrawn by Sergio, and then recolored by Tom for Chronicles. I want to take a look at the violence and the gore. Like, take a look here. Like, we've got blood slicing through the air and trailing in the air and splurting and spraying and splashing and pooling all over the place. Look at his sword covered in blood. 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 Okay. Let's take a close look here. Hang on. Okay. Blood is important. I'm just looking here. No little skull. and holes in the belt. I'm sorry, no little skull, holes in the belt. I just want to go back here. Yeah, no skull, no skull, no. But the skull is here. Interesting. The skull is there. Okay, so in addition to updating the nose and mostly getting rid of the early V-neck with the stitching, some skull has been added. Ah, very interesting. That's okay. But yeah, let's take a look here. So Groo comes in. He dodges. He jumps to the side. He's slicing through the four-armed monster's arm. You know what? Looking at this picture, it was actually hard to see that he was slicing through the arm. Yeah, there's a little bit of blood splurt or some sort of fluid splurt on the blade, but it's not the slice bleed that we've got in Destroyer Duck. And the swords have no blood here, as opposed to the original bloody blood. So Groo gets thumped by the tail. He rolls out of the way, dodging the chop of the axe, and slices to check through the tail. Blood on the blades, blood in the air, blood spurting out of the wound. A couple drips of something dark here, but not as much. Let me just flip around. Clang! Groo blocks as the blood pours out of the beast and pools on the ground. Over here, it's just not colored, so you can't see it pouring out. And maybe this is just a puddle of water on the ground, or oil. We're not quite sure what's happening here. Yeah, okay, let's not make this quite so obviously blood. That's exciting to see. Zish! Right through his chest. Groo uses his swords. Eek! Thunk! Look at that blade covered with blood. But we just see the swishes here. We don't see the splatters of blood. We don't see the katana blade covered in blood. We don't see the splotches of blood all over the beast as Groo comes slicing down more and more. Arg. Blood, 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 blood. Not quite so much blood here. Just a quick note, though. It doesn't look like Groo... Well, yeah, it does look to me like Groo has been redrawn, but maybe just traced here. Interesting that Sergio, on this first page, would redraw so obviously the nose and the eyes and the expressions. But then, on these two pages, look at the shape of the eyes here and here, and here and here. Interesting how, and the nose, look at the nose, he's keeping it the same. Interesting how he keeps the shape of the nose and the eyes. Here, he could have redrawn Groo to make him look more contemporary to the Chronicles timeline, but he didn't. I wonder if somebody else did the tracing. That just doesn't seem right. We do know that on occasion Mark has, colored in an eye around Rufferto, or Stan might have inked a little bit here and there on a drawing. I suppose it's not out of the realm of possibility that somebody inked by tracing that wasn't Sergio in the Chronicles. Okay, on the last page. Ha! Erg! Yarg! Sachak! Blood stain! Like, look at this. Blood, 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 blood. Drippy, drippy, drippy. Blade, blood. Looks like a redraw here to me, especially those eyes. Maybe the color has something to do with it. And then crunch in the end. Oh well. If you ever are in a trivia contest and you want to know what Groo's first thoughts are in a comic, oh well. Alright, so put away the Chronicles. Now, what was Destroyer Duck all about? Steve Gerber kind of lays it out here on the back page. This is one of those thank you pages where the editor of the magazine tends to go maudlin or cutesy on you, oozing praise for the magazine's contributors and heaping gratitude on the readers for letting him know with their hard-earned shekels where his next quarter-pounder is coming from. You'll be spared for most of that. I think the quality of the material in Destroyer Duck speaks for itself, and I can sum up my praise for all the contributors in one brief sentence. They did all their best work for free. And Steve goes on to speak about why this comic book was made. At the time, he was in a lawsuit with Marvel Comics over the ownership of his character Howard the Duck, and so to pay for those legal fees, all of Steve's friends in the comic industry got together. The good folks at Eclipse have demonstrated a commitment to the creator's share in the enterprise by publishing Destroyer Duck and taking no profit for itself. Your goodwill and that of the comics creative community are what Eclipse hopes to earn as a result. So yeah, to pay for his legal bills, Eclipse, all of Steve's friends get together to produce this comic. And that's how we get Destroyer Duck and the first appearance of Groo, who arguably is the most successful character to come out of this book. Here at the back we've got a nice drawing by Gordon Kent with some ducks all in a row. This is the Seeing Eye Duck. Oh, I get it. That's a commentary. Gordon Kent being the original colorist for Groo the Wanderer back in the Pacific days. So let's open this up. And we've kind of got a fun in-universe inter-office memo from God Corp Limited, and it's talking about, a little bit of the backstory that's going on in the Destroyer Duck story. And down at the bottom here, let's take a look at all these credits here, because this is fun. We've got Destroyer Duck, Volume 1, Number 1, 1982 issue, published by Eclipse, Dan Mullany and Jan Mullany publishers, Steve Gerber and Mark Evanier editors. Cover and Destroyer Duck, 1982, Steve Gerber and Jack Kirby. Now, let me talk a little bit about the cover and the art for Destroyer Duck. When I was a kid, I really wasn't into superhero comics. I had a very small comic collection when I was a kid before I really got into collecting Groo. Groo was really my first thing. So when I look at this cover here, I know that Jack Kirby drew this, but I wouldn't look at it and say, oh, this is a Jack Kirby cover. I recognize Jack Kirby's artistry. I have to take a look at this and say, oh yeah, created by Steve Gerber and Jack Kirby, artist, and look down here and see that the cover was actually drawn by Jack Kirby. When I was a 10-year-old kid, this style of art, it wasn't my thing. Even though, we've got funny animal people in it, just the style wasn't my thing. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're looking at the credits right here. So in addition to this Destroyer Duck story, we've got Great Moments in Comic Book History by Mark Evanier and Dan Spiegel, Gimme My Check by Martin Pascoe, Joe Stanton, and Scott Shaw with an exclamation point. We've got The Adventures of Thelma Iron Thighs by Sherry Flanagan, and Groo the Wanderer, 1982, Sergio Aragonés. So let's take a quick look at the other stories. Did I already tell you that I haven't read the full Destroyer Duck comic? I haven't read Destroyer Duck. I know what it's basically about. So there's this duck guy here. Apparently his name is Duke Duck, and he's got a buddy here that we can't quite see from behind. I believe he's supposed to be Howard the Duck. They're hard-working folks in this animal city. Duke here is shown to be, a tough guy, a man of justice and honor by having a bar fight here. We learn about his history, how he joins the special forces, goes to the university to get many degrees, and he becomes a private eye, I guess, detective. One day, his buddy, known as the little guy, staggers back into Duke's life and tells about how he was taken away by this corporation, Gold Corp, made to do unspeakable things. They used him up and spit him out the other side, and Duke decides he's going to get revenge for his little friend upon, I'm sorry, did I call it Gold Corp earlier? God Corp. So I'm sure there's all sorts of clever commentary and sneaky writing and drawing trying to show people who aren't really part of the industry, but maybe are, any similarities, purely coincidental. Duke is out to get revenge. It's very action-packed, lots of fighting and punching and shooting. And I was unsure, actually, taking a look at some of these drawings, Duke looks like a fairly big-sized humanoid duck. When we go back to the very beginning, I guess we're comparing them with other animals, but, he looks like a big guy compared to hippos and rhinos. He's holding his own there. But towards the end here, he looks like a pretty small fella. And this guy here, I don't know, is this the same guy? Is this guy back here, is this the greatest American hero? Who is this guy? Anyway, that is the first episode of Destroyer Duck. Other comics in this book, great moments in comic book history, as told by Mark Evanier, drawn by Dan Spiegel, colored by Gordon Kent. Again, this isn't the kind of art that would draw me in as a kid, and it still doesn't really draw me in, but I'm sure it's all very clever, stinging. The Adventures of Thelma Iron-Thighs. This is by Sherry Flanagan, who drew for National Lampoon and Mad, as well as being a prolific underground comic artist herself. More great moments in comic book history, number 2. This time by Martin Pascoe, Joe Stanton, and Scott Shaw, with an exclamation point. Gordon Kent, colorist. Connie Dobbs, letterer. And see, this more cartoony style of art, this is a little bit more my style. And of course, what we came here for, Groo the Wanderer. And of all the characters to be introduced in Destroyer Duck, the special lawsuit benefit edition, it does seem to me that Groo the Wanderer went on to enjoy the most and longest success. Soon after, Groo would appear in his own comic book series at Pacific Comics. But before that, Pacific Comics published more original Groo in Star Slayer, which you can check out by watching this video next. Please be sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on. And if you prefer your orange jerkins without stitching at the V-neck, the algorithm figures that you'll want to watch this next. Take care, everybody.